expects you to know how to do that.
Looks like we're starting.
Have both of our runners starting in Link's house and get just a single green rupee.
So what do you think the first glitch we're going to see today is?
The Lake Hylia auto walk out of Espeon here. Either that or going over to Hobo right at the start.
He's going to check the item on Lake Hylia first, while baliame sets up his tree pole.
Looks like it was just an arrow upgrade on the island, so he's not going to go for it. Is dashing over to kind of avoid the guard from seeing him. It still gets caught. Let's see if he can clip real quick. Nope. Oh, he's in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, that's why I've given up checking Lake Hylia with this opening, because the guard always gets in my way. And here's... Alright, so he's dashing over here, and he's going to set up fake flippers on this screen transition.
Find a piece of heart in the Uncle Cave. And I missed what was on Uncle. So,
it was the 5-bomb upgrade.
Okay, so just some capacity upgrades so far. In the Sanctuary, we've got the map, and we've got some money from the Hobo. He's just vacationing out there.
He's holding all the money for Zora later.
So Death Mountain is open to us at the start, but I don't expect either runner to go there quite yet. The dead rocks and boulders are scary. There we get a map check. We get a green pendant on Desert, a blue pendant in Eastern, and a regular crystal for Hera.
And that was the bow under Pegasus Rocks, so they may decide to go into Eastern? I don't know. That pendant makes it less attractive.
It does. Also lacking the lamp means anything you find past the Dark Rooms is not really available to you quite yet. Well, I say not available, but I mean not in logic.
Oh yeah, I'm just having a quick chat with one of those lumberjacks. Do you think he's telling the truth?
I think he's lying. In the lumberjack cave, we find a heart piece, so we are not going to see Aga be killed today. Now, the bow is a very nice item to have, but it would be nice if we had some arrows, too, to go with it.
Alright, they're just gonna swing their way through Kakariko here.
We're probably not going to see anything until we're pretty much done with Kakariko, unless we find the powder.
Yep, and to answer chat, they do start off with boots in this mode. A lot of the glitches that you're going to be seeing kind of rely on the boots to make them a lot easier. And so we give the runners the boots to start off with, so that it does have a different feel than a regular no major glitches seed.
We find the sword in the hook shot and another sword in the Thief's Hut. And to actually expand on what you were saying there about the boots, is that if the boots were randomized somewhere, just anywhere in the world, whoever finds them first gains a significant advantage over their opponents. And so to kind of keep things more even, they are given at the start.
Yeah, swords and hookshot is a nice find in Kakariko. So one of the other things that the runners really like to see in these glitch seeds is the ability to activate the spin speed or the hookshot speed. And so they won't have any problems with that now.
There's a bunch of clips you can do that the spin speed just makes so much easier. As well as the holding your sword out and doing a hook dash allows you to go straight through cliffs very quickly. I am surprised that Espeon didn't check the bonk rocks by the Sanctuary immediately. And I hope he doesn't forget about that, since it houses the bow. Now, that's still needed, no matter what the crystal situation is between Eastern and Palace of Darkness, just to reach the top of Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, and the goal in these Overworld Glitches seeds is to get all 7 crystals and climb the tower to defeat Aga too, so they do need to do that before they can beat Ganon.
Otherwise, he will refuse to take damage in the last phase. And then laugh at you. You find the best boomerang in the library. And we're going to see... I think Espeon's going to cheat the race game here. No, not for bombs. Or at least I don't think so. Looks like he's going for the upper pixel. Is he going to dash turn? Nope, just going straight to desert.
And so there we go. If you were used to needing the book or the mirror and stuff to get into desert, well, you don't need any of that for overworld glitch scenes.
Now, you still need a fire source in order to complete the dungeon, but I don't think we're going to see that for a while. Fire sources are actually pretty hard to find sometimes. Speaking of, there's fun on a torch. They can be hard to find, but I guess not this time around. Looks like baliame decided to go through the race game the normal way. Didn't cost him anything but some time. Get some bombs, so he's a bit fuller on his compliments there. Meanwhile, Espeon's just making his way through deserts. Now it is like Espeon.
Yeah, I like his play of picking up the magic pots here in desert, because if you happen to find powder, then you really do wish that you had some magic in your bar.
Or find the cane of Samaria.
So it's good that baliame is picking up his fire rod too, even though this is a pendant dungeon.
I mean, it's right here by Kakariko, and essentially just adds about one item to what you can grab in town for just a little bit more effort. I think it's a worthwhile dip. There's also a lot of arrow pots here in desert, which is very nice for loading up your bow.
So where would you head next from here? They don't quite have enough money to go to Zora yet.
There's still the Flute Grove Cave that they can go for, as well as Agina. But after this, I think the South Shore is probably the next best bet. Although Death Mountain wouldn't be bad either, because you can complete Hera with that fire source in hand. baliame doing an intentional death warp to get to the other side of the dungeon. His feet are tired from dashing around so much. A little bit more money is good. We're still short the 500 we would need to check Zora. And now we get to see where spin speed helps with clipping as you go right through that little cliff and hop up. So, Espeon, where are you going over to Lenmola's, maybe? Because you can't check checkerboard right now. Looks like he's going for it.
I mean, if he's planning on eventually getting over to Eastern, then this gives him the green pendant to check out.
That's true. That's not a bad decision to make, then.
There is a way to get to Eastern from Kakariko where you wrap all the way around the map, so it'd be interesting to see if either of these runners decide to take that route right afterwards.
I don't think Espeon is going to be able to, because once you're on the other side of the rocks, you can't get out unless you have gloves.
That's right.
Now, we could see that out of baliame, though, which would be kind of interesting.
Looks like he has the same idea. He's just taking the long way around to get into the back half of desert.
That's one thing about doing all of these overworld glitches, is that there's so many little shortcuts that you, even if you know how to clip around, so many little shortcuts you never think of.
Yeah, that's really, I think, what differentiates the great overworld glitch runners from the ones that have just learned it. You know, the great ones just know which glitch to use to get to what they want to do the fastest.
And sometimes you don't need to glitch at all for it to be the fastest route.
You're right, that's the hardest thing to remember.
We get so caught up in jumping around the world because of how much fun it is that we forget, oh yeah, we're actually racing. We need to be as fast as possible and put our pride behind us. We get the Quake Medallion from Lenmolas, which is pretty nice. Could be required from Meyer. Baliame is clipping a little too high there. He's running into the wall that's there. He needs to start from a bit lower. There he goes. Now, every time you see the dash dust underneath the runners when they're going up the cliff, they're hitting a direction and A on the same frame every single time. You have to do that consecutively until you're deep enough into the cliff to either jump or teleport. Now, that sounds hard, but it's a lot easier than how it sounds.
And Espeon's picking up his bow over here, so that's really good for him.
Looks like he's going up to Death Mountain now. I wonder which Death Mountain ascent he's going to go for. Looks like just the classic upward teleport. Now, that put him over the screen transition, which kind of upset where his camera thinks he is, so he's got to correct it first before going into this cave. Otherwise, going into the cave takes an extra 2 minutes.
I don't know, I've definitely had it take much longer than that.
So now I've got Baliame fighting the Landmolas, while Espeon is escorting the old man in the dark.
So
Old man love.
Espeon's using the standard Link sprite, which is very common for overworld glitches, because that's what a lot of the tricks are based on. But we have Bali here using, I think that's one of the Warcraft sprites, right?
Valyria, I think, is the name of the sprite. Valyra or Valyria. I don't know if it has the I in there or not. Looks like Hera seems to be friendly for now, giving the big key early.
So where is Bali gonna go now?
Could go up to Death Mountain just like Espeon did, or could go down the South Shore and check out all the chests down there through Mini Moldorm Cave and all that. Looks like it's going to be a Death Mountain play.
Runners are definitely going to be keeping their eye out for the Moon Pearl at this point. I mean, there's still a lot of locations to look at, but they're hoping for it to not be too trolly.
Yeah, the Moon Pearl could literally be in anywhere in the Light World and many places in the Dark World. More than just the pyramid, as you would expect from no glitch scenes.
And here Bali's doing a different Death Mountain ascent. Looks like he's going to go to the top of Death Mountain, next to where the Ether Tablet is.
Again, he gets a nice jump around the transition, but for some reason, right now the game doesn't care as much, so he's able to go into Hera very easily and doesn't have to wait too much longer for the transition to complete. I don't know why Old Man Cave is so upset when you transition when after wrapping.
So I
A
feel
nice
like that,
Smoldorm kill.
to answer chat, Dungeon Bunny Revival is considered a minor glitch. So you're actually allowed to use that in your no major glitches seed if it ever becomes useful.
Like if you have the Mitts and Fire Rod and Hammer and decide to do Ice Palace early, you can definitely do that in your no glitch seeds and be in a perfectly reasonable standing.
Yes, it is not in logic for the no major glitches seeds, but it is in logic for these overworld glitch seeds.
So outside of the Crystal and Hera, we didn't seem to get anything else of value. And here we see Espeon doing what we call T-Rock Climb. It's a decent way of getting over to the other side of Death Mountain through this very convenient land bridge that just happens to be there. Looks like another medallion on the floating island. I think I saw it was Ether. Espeon opting to go into the clouds in a bit safer of a location, it seems. Let's be careful not to transition upward there, otherwise I believe it's a soft lock. Now, despite not having the flippers, there is one frame where Link is able to interact in water and move around. So he was able to use that one frame to get into the main mass of the land and hop out immediately. And you can see him trying to hop in bounds. There's actually a much easier way to hop in. I found that if you go over to where the cliff makes a corner, because right there, when you hop down, it actually puts you lower because it sees the cliff as part of a wall.
Well, that's good to know. Usually I end up doing the same thing that Espeon just did, just going back and forth over and over again.
There's always more to learn with Link to the Past.
So Espeon's going to finish up Paradox Cave here, and he's going to clip through this ledge. But we might see him descend Death Mountain from this side as well.
That's right. He could go over to the Zora area, or he could go directly into the Waterfall Ferry. He wouldn't be able to get out of there, but he could still check the two chests without the flippers or Moon Pearl or anything. To answer chat there, with the overworld glitches allowed, it does change what is necessarily required for go mode. For instance, you don't need the flute, and if you know certain glitches, you don't need the mitts, and you don't necessarily need the T-Rock medallion. So those are really the major things that wind up getting skipped in overworld glitches. You could also skip Pearl if you really want to, but that's more difficult and usually winds up taking up more time than it's worth.
And one of the things that you would need to do that is a bottle, which Espeon did just find. So that does open up a bunch of Dark World locations if they wanted to check, but none of that is in logic. Looks like Espeon's going down to Eastern now.
Yep, using the auto walk from the Witch, or to the Witch rather, from Death Mountain. Now those auto walks are because when Link lands, there are certain positions when you land after jumping that you're kind of on the transition, but also not. You can tell because pretty much only Link's hat is showing. And if you transition down from there, Link just walks automatically halfway across the screen, and you don't have any control for it, just moves you the entire way. There's our third medallion and the lamp in Sahasrah's closet.
Does that make you happier about this Eastern play, finding that lamp?
Yeah, it seems much more worthwhile. It does open up only 2 locations here. at most, because you could have dungeon items in both of them, which would be unfortunate. Or fortunate if it's both, rather. So you don't have to go all the way through.
And I did just realize that with this pendant configuration, it is possible for Moon Pearl to be on the pedestal.
We do need to figure out which pendant is what's in the Dark World yet, before we can make a definitive answer on that.
But it is still possible.
Don't get the chat's hopes up. It looks like baliame is doing the same clip as Espeon here. It's kind of interesting. I expected one of them to at least go for something in the Zora area. But it looks like baliame is going to go pick up a potion, probably a blue one.
I do believe baliame is a... it's one of his favorite things to fake flute around in the Dark World, so I'm sure that's why he's picking it up. And if you didn't know, I mean, so what I was saying there was that you use a blue potion on the same frame that you screen transition in the Dark World, and that brings, for whatever reason, it brings up the flute menu and allows you to flute around to different places in the Dark World.
Technically, it also works in the Light World, but it's more commonly used in the Dark World since it gives you a quick way of warping around. And to answer chat, what we just described is actually a YBA. So that's one of them they can use. They can also use red and green ones, but again, only on the Overworld. The red and green ones work very differently, and unless we see the runners going for it, I'm not going to try to explain it because it gets kind of complicated.
So I wasn't following everything that Espeon was doing, but I'm assuming he found all the items in Eastern, and that's why he bailed out early?
I wasn't counting, but he did find the ice rod in there. Maybe we'll pay better attention to baliame's run through here, as Espeon goes and does the south loop of the Light World.
At this point, I would start to be a little bit concerned about this Moon Pearl location.
Since we don't have the mirror yet, I actually wouldn't be too concerned. Once you get the mirror, that opens up a lot of locations that you can check as a bunny.
Yeah, that's right. Logically speaking, the Moon Pearl still has to be in the Light World right now. We got some more Zora money.
Outside of the extra money, not really too advantageous going through there. Still a worthwhile check, being 5 chests and all.
Yeah, so that was all 3 items in Eastern.
So unless we do have a pedestal situation, we are done with that dungeon. And we find Tempered Sword in the Ice Rod Cave. Should have no more problems dealing with the enemies in our faces. Meanwhile, baliame is heading for Escape. I think he already checked Uncle. Yeah, he did. And while it didn't have too much, there's still more that he can check here in Hyrule Castle. Meanwhile, Espeon is opting to Water Walk, going to the Zora area, because I believe he already checked the Hylia Island and Hobo already.
Now, interestingly enough, Waterfall and the ledge are not actually in logic yet. Here's Butter Sword, wow.
And the Moon Pearl in Hyrule Castle. Espeon getting a free green potion at the expense of the Better Bee. Now, with Espeon walking on the water, he could go for the item on Zora ledge right now by just clipping into the ledge here. It's not worth it, so he's not going to go for it. Instead, he's going to go pay Zora.
So Espeon should be making his way over to the castle very shortly. I think the only other things he has to check would be the Graveyard Ledge and Sick Kid.
At the moment, I think that's correct. Looks like a baliame is trying to set up a Death Warp by keeping the Green Guard alive. And it looks like Espeon is doing Water Walk, using magic, and using up all his potions. I guess making room for some blues.
Maybe he's just making a play into the Dark World and saving the Moon Pearl for later.
Possibly. It's not unreasonable to do Escape after you have the mirror, since you can use that mirror to go to the Pyramid Fairy first, and then just go into the Hyrule Castle dungeon immediately after. But it looks like we're getting a Hyrule Castle check anyway, so those potions are still going to come in handy for some overworld movement. They're just not going to be used to find the Moon Pearl in the Dark World, or to look for it, rather.
It looks like the sewer's key is in the back, so that location is locked off until they find a glove upgrade.
So with Fire Rod available, I would say that Skull Woods is probably the next place that I would go.
Well, let's take a look at the pendant situation.
Ooh, it's Thieves' Town. It looks like Hera was actually the red crystal, as we have, what was that, Ice Palace as the second red crystal in the Dark World there? We see another one of those fancy auto walks out of Baliame to get down Death Mountain. Kind of important considering how much stuff is up against the bottom of Death Mountain here.
Yeah, and until they find one of the more normal routes into the Dark World, we're going to be seeing them come down Death Mountain a lot to access the Dark World.
If you get into any of the glitch modes, this is going to be pretty common for you to do several times every seed, and you just get really good at it eventually.
And look. Yeah, we're going to see Espeon fake flute over here.
There's two places that I could see Espeon going, either into Village of Outcasts or over by Swamp Palace. Now, when you use the fake flute here as a bunny, when you land, you actually land on the Light World screen, but also in the Super Bunny state. Okay, that's odd. I wasn't expecting going over to Eastern. Now, Espeon has to be very careful because if he takes damage or bonks, he loses the Super Bunny state. Now, what's important about the Super Bunny state is that if you can find a pull location, like the entrance of Thieves' Town, or a few other spots in the overworld, and pull it as a bunny, or as Super Bunny rather, you become regular Link. don't dash through grass. That's a bad idea. Dashing through grass is very bad because sometimes you have those rocks that just come alive, and they show up in the grass and force you to bonk immediately, and that would lose you your Super Bunny state.
Yeah, but it only lasts as long as you're up in the overworld over here. If you go into the underworld and then when you come back, you will be back into a bunny again, because that's when the game checks to see if you should be a bunny or not.
So where is Espeon going to go? He's trying to figure out how is he going to get out of the pyramid area. Fake flipper here and probably pop out right below the bomb shop. Uh-oh. That, getting out of fake flippers there is not good. I would actually reset here if I were Espeon, because he didn't find anything worthwhile from using his blue potion. And then he would have been able to keep it.
And it looks like Bali took a death in the overworld part of Skull Woods while he was heading towards the back.
To clear up some things in chat, Super Bunny is important in that you can become Link on the overworld, but otherwise, the only thing that you can do as a bunny is dash, slash your sword, use potions, or use the mirror. You can't even spin attack as a bunny. I mean, you can charge it and get the little spin graphic, but it actually doesn't damage anything.
Well, you can also pick up pots and open chests too, right? That's why we have Super Bunny Cave.
Yes, that is true. You can open up chests and pick up pots and push blocks.
So Bali's going to put off the back of Skull Woods for later, and he's going to check out Village of Outcasts here.
Meanwhile, Espeon is clearing out the Hyrule Castle dungeon, found his Moon Pearl, still has one blue potion in reserve for later. So now we may see a similar play out of Espeon here to go to Skull Woods. Meanwhile, baliame is entering Pendant Thieves Town. Finds the powder in the first chest. I wonder how far he's going to go in this dungeon. He doesn't have the hammers, so at the very least, the big chest is locked to him. Espeon opting to keep the map wrapped. I wonder if he's going down to the swamp area to go check out Hype Cave.
Yeah, but he's going to go on a free-fall dive over here.
1, 2, 3, 4 times over the screen. 5, 6, 7, 8 times through the screen. And now we're down by swamp. Now, Espeon actually needed to enter Swamp then, because the camera was rather glitched out and would have been very difficult to get anywhere. And when you enter the dungeons or caves with multiple entrances, it winds up resetting your camera. The same cannot be said for single entrance caves like Hype Cave or many of the other assorted houses in Kakariko. And we get the mirror off of the Hype Cave guy, which is pretty nice to find. It opens up a bunch of locations. I believe I mentioned that with the mirror we can get to the Pyramid Fairy automatically. It also opens up an out-of-logic glitch that we are allowed to use called Mirror Wraps.
Yeah, and that's when you activate the mirror on the same frame that you do a screen transition. And you will again confuse the camera, and it'll move Link about half a screen's worth of, or half a, oh, I don't even know what you call these. Is it like a quadrant?
Half an overworld tile is what I call it, because and even that is not completely accurate because you have two different sizes of overworld tiles, and it just gets kind of messy when you really try to make concise terminology. But either way, you get transported a good ways across the overworld, and can allow you to reach some pretty interesting places, such as Ice Palace, without needing to use the mitts. Now, we did see a glove in the Mire Hut here. And we do have the medallion necessary to open Mire, since we know where all three are. But we still need the Cane of Samaria to complete the dungeon.
So at this point, if we kind of take stock, it looks like they need the hammer, the flippers, and the Cane of Samaria for go mode.
Assuming that they are going to do the mirror wrap into Ice Palace. Logically, Ice Palace does still require the mitts, but more often than not, people will skip it if they can. We actually don't like seeing the mitts in Overworld glitched. Now, to answer Holsetti in chat, how was it decided what's in logic or out of logic? Now, the two glitches that we've mentioned that are kind of out of logic, the YBAs and the mirror wraps, those are glitches that you do on the transitions between overworld screens and can often lead to ways to soft lock your game or even hard lock your game, such that you can't get out of it even through a save and quit, which would be a huge loss of progress. And Overworld Glitches is meant to be more of an introductory mode into doing a bunch of major glitches. So it's kind of kept that way to make it more accessible. I think this is the first time we're seeing the South Shore out of Baliame, which is kind of interesting. Normally you'd complete something like this very early on, but when you get the Moon Pearl, the allure of the Dark World is strong. So now we have Espeon dipping into Pendant Thieves. I wonder if he's going to go any further than Baliame did. Meanwhile, Baliame is in Mini Moldorm Cave, getting the rest of the money that he needs to go check Zora for a heart piece.
Does a Turtle Rock play look at all enticing to you, or is the absence of the cane just a big turnoff?
It is a turnoff, but the Cane of Samaria could be in Turtle Rock, so checking it is not the worst thing in the world. Especially since we can open up the front if need be. Actually, going through the front isn't good considering we don't have the cane, but we can get to the middle. I would certainly be more inclined to go there if we had the hammer, so we could check Mimic Cave simultaneously. Although if we had the hammer, I would also prioritize going to Ganon's Tower first. since that is a much denser clump of items.
We're going to get a magic bat check here from Espeon as well. So he's going to clip into this ledge and then jump up, wrap across the screen, and then now kind of make his way into that Batcave hole.
Just finds this random hole in the water. And we find flippers in the Batcave, which is required for our Swamp Palace completion. Still missing hammer to really go anywhere in that dungeon, although there is one item location available there right now. Now, I wonder... Go ahead. Oh, you go first.
I was going to say, this is a really interesting seed where we're missing both the hammer and the cane of tomorrow, which are usually the items that you look for to convince yourselves power, but we don't have either of them.
And they could be both up in the first couple of rooms of Ganon's Tower as well, which would be kind of a dick thing for the game to do. So we've got Espeon going into Skull Woods and baliame checking the Zora area. Looks like Espeon is going to go toward the back first and clear out everything there, and work his way toward the front. One thing we could do as well is dip into Palace of Darkness at some point. We've been able to get some more money through some of the other checks that we've done in the Dark World, enough to pay Kiki, and we could find the hammer in there as well. We've got access to everything in that dungeon except for the Helmasaur boss himself. Meanwhile, it looks like baliame is heading into the back of Escape using the gloves to push open the grave. Now, we saw a graveyard ledge check earlier, but we haven't seen King's Tomb yet, which is open to our runners, but not currently in Logic yet.
No, they have the mirror. It is in Logic.
Oh, it is. That's right. They do have the mirror. I was just thinking of myths only. Looks like that baliame is keeping his map wrapped here. He could be going to either GT or Pyramid Fairy. It depends on where he moves on the Overworld screen here, until we know which one he's going for. It looks like he's going for the Pyramid Fairy. Now, with the screen being wrapped the way that it is, the game kind of keeps track of Link's position in two ways. His relative location on that Overworld screen and a global position. Now, when he wrapped the screen going up to Hera, it kept his local position relatively the same, but his global moved down a bit. And when he placed the mirror, the portal actually wound up within the Hyrule Castle courtyard, right in front of where the cracked wall is in the Dark World.
So he's going to make his way back to the portal now, which is sitting in front of Hyrule Castle.
Wonder which way he's going to get into the castle. Is he going to go for the super jump, or is he going to go through the gates? He's going through the gates. We're bypassing a little bit of swag here. Now, it's actually important that he enters this portal facing upward. Otherwise, the game just kind of kicks you back to the light world immediately upon arriving. We find the silver arrows and some arrows to notch your bow with. And because his portal was low enough, he was able to exit the cave and then immediately go onto the pyramid. Now, if your portal winds up a little bit too high, you can still get out of it, but it requires going back into the Pyramid Fairy Cave and holding up as you exit, possibly multiple times. Meanwhile, we see a T-Rock climb out of Espeon. Could be going toward Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny Cave right now, since we have both the glove and the hookshot.
And baliame is... Oh, I thought he would. I thought he clipped into GT, but he's not there yet.
Yeah, he saved and quit to go back to the mountain, and will probably either follow suit with T-Rock climb, which seems to be what he's doing. Still on the lookout for the hammer and Samaria. Little bit of a premature fall there before fully clearing Hookshot Cave. Find our last bottle, I believe. So we've got all of our bottles. We've got some potions in reserve. Otherwise, nothing of import here on East Death Mountain in the Dark World.
But the answer's not here, so I think they have a decision now of whether to look into Turtle Rock or maybe clip down to Catfish and continue on to Pod.
Espeon is choosing to go to Catfish. Which actually seems like the more likely play, considering how many more items you can check in Palace of Darkness versus Turtle Rock or Ganon's Tower. Of course, both the items that we're looking for could wind up in Misery Mire or in Ice Palace as well. Seems that baliame is following in Espeon's footsteps. And outside of missing the Ether Medallion on the floating island, our runners are pretty much tied.
Well, Bali's got to go back to the back half of Skullwood since he had died earlier. Actually, he had that option of going there from Turtle Rock, but looks like he's doing the pod play instead.
Getting to Skullwoods from Turtle Rock, while it is possible, is rather dangerous, as that does involve wrapping the overall overworld map, which means that once you get onto the other overworld screen, if you move to the right at all, your game hard locks, you have no chance to reset, or no chance to save and quit, and must reset. So it's a rather risky thing to go for, but can be a great time saver if you're willing to go for it.
Oh wow, I didn't even know this maze entrance on the north side even existed.
The little things you learn about the video game. So unfortunately, we missed the first chest or so in Pod due to a couple of restream issues, but those are so far being fixed. So we'll get a good look at it now. Get a small key, which I believe was expected anyway. Meanwhile, Espeon is checking the right side of Pod, the bow-locked side. Running a little low on health, but I don't think that's a problem. If I were Espeon, I would actually set up the Death Orb here anyway. Although mirroring is certainly not a bad option either. So far we found mostly keys here in Palace of Darkness. It does have the reputation of being the mullet dungeon, and that doesn't change in Overworld glitches, considering you can't really do your major glitches within the dungeon. Looks like Espeon is going for a hammer jump. Using select buffers, which is different from what I typically see, which is using the item menu, but works just fine and finds the Cane of Samaria. So that certainly makes Turtle Rock a more enticing option, as well as Misery Mire, to look for the hammer. We could also see a GT play at this point. We could clear it if the big key happens to be on the right side. Baliame going for a hammer jump for himself.
It's surprising how similar their routing has been throughout the entire seed.
Yeah, I normally would expect more divergence when you have so much more of the world open to you from the start. But sometimes you just think the same way that your opponent does. So I think we can logically deduce that the big key chest in pod there is a small key. I don't believe either runner opened it. And since we only have one small key left, and we need one to get to Helmasaur, we can know that that vanilla big key chest holds a small key itself. Now without the hammer, we can't complete the dungeon, so we're going to go ahead and head elsewhere. Looks like we're seeing a Turtle Rock play out of Espeon. Oh, yeah, had to press down first before you can kick yourself up the slope. It almost looked like he thought he was stuck. And he's going to go for a mirror wrap here, opting to go straight to Laser Bridge.
Now he still needs to get the big key first, so he's going to be working his way backwards through this dungeon.
And because the door is closed until you bomb it open, once you enter, you have to bomb it yourself. And you actually can't move until you bomb that door open. And fun fact, if you try to Super Bunny that entrance, the game crashes. At least until you open it up with a bomb. Getting some nice laser skips. Now we actually know that the big key can't be back here, because the only way to get to Laser Bridge is by using that mirror rep, which is out of logic. And the only other way to get to the Laser Bridge is by going through either the big chest entrance or the main entrance and working your way all the way to the big key door right before the Crystal Roller room. And it seems that Baliame is also making the T-Rock play. And seems to be going for the mirror wrap to Laser Bridge as well.
Now, I don't know if chat is going to be happy about this, but we still have hammer on pedestal open as a possibility.
What are you talking about? Chat's going to be happy about that until we declare pedestal dead. We find just a bomb capacity upgrade in the Crystal Roller room. And we'll probably see more of the dungeon in a little bit here. Taking a nasty fall in the Laser Bridge, running a little low on health. Not too big of a deal considering the respawn points is just down the hallway.
Now, at this point, would you continue to clear these dungeons looking for the hammer, or would you go elsewhere in hopes of trying to go mode some of these remaining dungeons?
I would certainly search for now in the dungeons that I know I can complete, which would be this one, Misery Mire, Skullwoods for baliame, as well as dipping into GT at some point. Just a few more chests here in the front of Turtle Rock for Espeon. Meanwhile, baliame reaching where the big key door is. Now, for Randomizer, you may have noticed in entrance randomizers, but in the glitch modes as well, this big key door is supposed to have a small key door on the other side, but has been deleted to allow for more randomization. I'm actually not too happy with that change in the full glitch mode, because there are times where I want that key door to be able to be opened without using the big key. baliame nabbing all 4 of those anti-fairies with a single use of the powder. Pretty sweet. And we finally get our big key, which is exactly what Espeon was looking for, and can now go straight to Trinix. Of course, we still have the big chest to check within Turtle Rock, but we can reach that very easily once the dungeon is completed. Actually, not quite that easily, because normally we would need the hammer to open up the Turtle Rock portal, but since we don't have that yet, we're going to have to find some other way to get back into the Dark World on top of Death Mountain in order to check it.
Well, I believe they can just enter the front again if they wanted to. It's not quite as good as entering in from the middle.
True, and they would have to work their way all the way to the second Poke's room in order to exit by the laser wall to get to the big chest. And at that point, I would rather just save and quit and go do another T-Rock clip. Just the roller room left for baliame to get the big key, and then he will likely follow suit with a mirror back to Laser Bridge to go kill Trinix. So I wonder what Espeon is going to do. Is he going to go up to the hammer pegs and realize, oh, I can't open this? Yep. And we get the save and quit. So I could see a Ganon's Tower play here, or going back to Turtle Rock just to check that big chest. Could also go for Misery Mire. Although out of all of those, I think Ganon's Tower is probably the most likely. With Espeon keeping the screen wrapped like it is, we're definitely going into GT, landing right on the stairs and going up. So unfortunately, baliame is not going to be able to open up the Turtle Rock portal either, so he's not going to be able to go for the Skullwoods map wrap. Not that I think he would go for it, considering how risky it is.
Well, the big key was in the GT Hope Room, so the top of GT is open to them.
Well, that's interesting. We could find a hammer way up top there.
You know, it's possible the Turtle Rock big chest has a small key in it, because they ended up with one key left.
Why would it have a small key left? Oh, yeah, I think it does, because there are two key doors that they bypassed. The one to Chomps and the one to the Crystal Roller room. So, in that case, I guess we can write that one off. And it seems that baliame is still following in Espeon's footsteps.
But if he keeps this up, then Espeon's going to find the hammer first and win.
Yeah, he's got to change up something here. We find our mitts. Boo! Boo, mitts, boo.
So that puts part of Ice Palace in logic for the hammer now.
Yep. As well as the smithy sequence.
So we're about an hour in. Do you feel like do you think the runners feel like they're behind at this point, or?
I'd feel ahead. I mean, we're only missing one item. We can complete so many dungeons. We're in pretty good shape.
Whoops. Alright, Espeon's gonna have to bomb jump his way across now.
Or reset the room. Did he go for the big chest there? Because he could reset it by going up there and then coming back down.
We haven't seen the big chest yet. Well, that's a good point. I hadn't. I thought baliame was following Espeon so closely. I hadn't realized that he still needs to pick up his flippers over in the Batcave.
Actually, one little advantage that baliame has over Espeon is the silver arrows. Now, that doesn't count for too much. Only about, I guess, 30 seconds or so on the Ganon fight, but that could be enough. He's opting to not check the Ice Armos or the big chest, which luckily didn't have the hammer, and so now he is slightly ahead of Espeon. Minus the flippers and Skullwood's crystal.
That's an interesting decision. I wonder if that's a signal that he is feeling a little behind.
Possibly. He also just may not be comfortable going through the right side of Ganon's Tower, because you rarely see that particular section. I think I would have bonked to the restock room there to get some magic, because it helps so much in the gauntlet here to have it for different things. Although they do have the lamps, they're at least able to get through the torch room fairly easily.
I feel like they still have some green potions that they picked up before, though.
Espeon does not. He has a blue and a red, I believe. Baliame having a pretty decent gauntlet here. Nice little double slash there, and a very fortuitous magic drop. Espeon having a little bit of trouble in Gauntlet 3. And manages to make it through.
And Butter Sword makes quick work of those landmos. Seems like Espeon's having just a little bit more trouble on this climb.
Game's hard. Now we're finally reaching the chests of the top of Ganon's Tower, and as we have been saying a few times already, Hammer could be up here. There's a shovel, which could lead to Hammer.
I don't know, at this point I would feel tempted to go through that whole sequence of smiths and shovel and everything before going into another dungeon.
If I were Baliame, that seems reasonable, because you can just transition from doing all of that to go complete Skull Woods, now that you have much better equipment. But for Espeon, that might be put off a bit longer. So we might finally see some divergence. Rather unlucky couple of patterns here. Really difficult to get anything knocked toward Aga 2 there. Here we go. Here's something a little better. I think Baliame still needs 2 more hits. Yep, 1 more. Ah, it just barely misses it.
I think Espeon needs 1 more too.
Ooh, there it is. Oh, and we are just about caught up between them. Again, Espeon does have the advantage of the flippers and the Skullwoods crystal, but Baliame does have the silver arrows.
Yeah, it looks like I would say baliame's gonna make his way over to the hammer peg area from here.
Nope, he's opting to fake flutes.
All right.
Certainly not a bad option for getting to this lower area of Dark World. Espeon seems to be going to turn in the shovel quest right away. And it's got the flute. Alright. Would you activate the flute at this stage of the game? I don't think I would.
No.
Now, with the mitts, Espeon is going to be able to get into Mire from this screen. He's just got to clip up onto the little platform where the black rocks are. No flute required. And here, I thought we were going to get some divergence, but I was wrong.
We can satisfy ourselves with some lead changes, I guess. They are running out of places to check, though. If it's not here, you know, they've only got maybe 6 or 7 locations left.
Yep, one chest in Swamp. I think only 3 in... No, there's 3 that are locked by Hammer in Ice Palace. Other than that... can't be Mimic Cave. Can't be Spike Cave. Yeah, there's not too many places to check anymore.
Yeah, neither of them went to the back of Thieves Town, so I guess there's a few chests back there.
There's a few, but I think they got a couple of items out of the front, so that's about as likely to hold anything as Misery Mire here.
Chat's still excited about Ped, I guess.
It could be there, although I don't think it's very likely considering that Thieves Town is one of the pendants. There is a chance that the way the keys are configured in Thieves Town, it winds up being hammer locked, but we won't know until we go through the chests there. Then again, I said yesterday that it was unlikely we would see Aga be killed with a book on Lumberjack, but that happened anyway.
And I think the longer that this search for the hammer drags on, the more that the runners are going to feel like their opponent has found it already.
Yeah, it's starting to get to the point where you start feeling behind, because the hammer does lock a considerable amount.
And Bali's working under this fear that you know, he died in the back of Skull Woods. He's still looking for flippers as well, so I would say he might be a little bit frantic.
So unfortunately, since we didn't get to use the flute to get here, we are not going to see any kind of spooky action in this basement of Mire. We gotta go do things the old-fashioned way by blowing open the wall. Oh, and Hammer was in the cutscene chest. That is something that baliame skipped. I wonder if he's going to go back in and check it, since he knows there's one more item left in Mire. Opting for Cape Strats against Vitreous, just dash across the smaller eyes till they're all dead. If baliame doesn't re-enter Mire here, it's probably going to be a long time until he comes back. It's a hefty time commitment to come all the way out here to Mire again, go through the cutscene chest just to check the single thing out there. So he needs to go back inside.
Oh, he's thinking?
Oh, okay. Whew.
He still needs to make up some time though, so he's got to make his way over to Bat Cave for the flippers, and he's still behind on Skull Woods.
Yeah, so this is a hefty time loss from him here. At this point, I would put Espeon in the lead right now. Although we are getting a bit of a slower Vitreous fight. Oh, there he goes. Now he's got the cape out.
Oh, there's a problem here though. The hammer for baliame is going to open up a ton of locations where the flipper isn't.
It can't be in Swamp. It'll... The only places it opens... Well, I don't know. Yeah, Batcave is kind of out of the way for the flippers. Unless he gets it on the way up to Skull Woods, that could be something he is taken out of mind for now. Meanwhile, Espeon in Go mode now is heading over to Swamp Palace. And these last couple of dungeons are actually going to be rather quick. We just have Helmasaur left in Pod, and Go mode Swamp and Ice Palace are pretty quick too. Looks like baliame is going into Ice Palace using fake flippers. So he is going to wind up searching this dungeon for the real ones.
So this is their first game in Best Out of 3. I believe they have their next one scheduled for tomorrow at the same time.
Actually an hour later, I think. I could be wrong, though. I might need to check the schedule on that. Oh no, you were correct. It is scheduled for the same time tomorrow. I was thinking of something else. In the meantime, we have Espeon kind of blazing right through Swamp Palace, and we'll see how much baliame tries to check here in Ice. Sets up the bomb jump very nicely, gets it first try. And Espeon blazing right past the waterfall chest, not even daring to look for the silvers. Very nice phase too, yeah. Very nice. So now all that's left for Espeon is to kill Helmasaur and Cold Stare, and then he can go straight to Ganon. Opting to save and quit. I guess he's going into the front that way. I mean, he could have just mirrored to the light world and gone straight up and done a fake flippers over to the entrance of Ice Palace, or done the mirror wrap. And now he's going back into the Dark World at the same spot? Where are you going, Espeon?
Maybe he's going to do the mirror wrap, but he wanted to make sure he didn't lose his crystal progress in case he messed it up.
I guess. I mean, he does have mitts. This is one of those things where we talked about earlier. It's easier to go in through the front entrance than to glitch your way in.
He just wants to show off the swag.
Oh, and I think he realizes that, yep, he can just go right in. So his baliame is falling to Cold Stare. Espeon is entering Ice Palace. Now, I think that Espeon still has a blue potion left. It would actually be useful to use that one in the Light World to get over to the portal by Palace of Darkness pretty quickly. To use it as a regular Light World flute rather than just restricting yourself to it being a Dark World one. I'll be interested to see if he goes for it.
So the seed did... well, correct me if I'm wrong, I may be misremembering, but the Cane of Samaria was in Pod, correct?
Yes, it was in the big chest.
Yeah, so you had to get that, and then also the hammer was in Mire, so you would have to double dip one of them.
Right. So now where is baliame going to go? Over to Pod to go kill Helmasaur? Seems to be. That's the only other thing that you can do on this side of the world.
So there must still be another item on Helmasaur.
Or he just wants the crystal to be done. I'm sure we'll find out once he opens up his menu. If we're missing either the map or the compass, then that is going to be what's on Helmasaur. Meanwhile, Espeon's still blazing through. Just about at Cold Stare. It seems that there is still an item on Helmasaur here. He's really hoping that it's the flippers. But unfortunately, he needs to make his way over to the Bat Cave and turn in the powder. Espeon missed the spin there on Cold Stare. Has to be really careful. I don't think he has a fairy.
Ouch.
This
is going to give baliame a little bit more time to catch up.
Yeah. He's got to go through the entirety of the dungeon now. And I think... Oh, does Espeon not have another blue potion? So he's got to go out and get some more before returning. Stroke of bad luck for Espeon is a stroke of good luck here for baliame. This gives him a lot of time, a few minutes, to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to hinge on what he decides to do after killing Helmasaur. Like, if he decides to follow up the hammer with a clear of GT, then that's not going to work out.
He could go for Skull Woods instead, which would put him in the area if he's hell-bent on clearing out crystals. But other than that, yeah, GT would probably be the next place I'd go in his situation. Looks like Espeon is putting off Cold Stare for now, opting to go straight for Helmasaur. Get that out of the way. Likely will mirror back, or is going to use the magic refill from clearing the dungeon to go back into Ice Palace. And he'll be rewarded with the red mail, which means dying to Cold Stare a second time is going to be a bit harder. And the thing is, even when baliame finds the flippers, he still has to go through and do Swamp Palace, which is going to be a few minutes there.
Well, he's not up in Death Mountain, so this is a good start.
He's at least heading to Skull Woods. I wonder if he would wind up doing the Smithy sequence first before finishing off with Batcave, because that would be 3 items that you can do all at once here, in addition to a hammer pick, so that makes it 4. Certainly not a bad option when you're in the area, but it all hinges on what he does after Moth.
Yeah, I believe he didn't check the shovel spot either, right?
No, because that housed the flute. Meanwhile, Espeon is opting to not use the sort-out strats for Helmasaur. It's a bit harder to hit the mask, but you do get more maneuverability with which to dodge. And And with half magic, baliame is just setting Skull Woods on fire. So now Espeon is going to go back into Ice Palace for one more try at Cold Stare. And we have to hope that baliame goes for the Bat Cave right after killing Mothula here.
No, don't use your magic. It takes more time to refill the magic bar.
5 frames. And even less because he has half magic. I think each rod shot was worth maybe 8 frames there. So he goes back in. He's going to check the one chest in the back here. I guess he already checked the... Did he check the front of Skull Woods, all of it? Because I remember he had a death on the Overworld here earlier and abandoned it until now.
Yeah, I think he went through the front and checked all those chests. So the answer's not here.
Uh-oh, he saved and quit. That might mean he's going to GT.
You could still do a Death Mountain descent here, right?
He could, but I'm not hopeful that that's going to happen. He's going right for the portal, keeping his map wrapped, which means he's either going to GT or to Swamp at this point. And I don't see him going to Swamp. Also, baliame skipped the Ice Armos and Big Chest portions of the basement in GT here, so he's probably going to go all the way through on this trip, costing him even more time. Oh, a little bit of a fall from Espeon. Got to do the Ice Palace bomb jump once more.
So despite getting a lot of items early, both runners did end up clearing a really good portion of the world, I would say.
Yep. We are really just missing a lot of Hammerlock's locations, the Smith sequence, and the back of Thieves Town in terms of things we didn't check. I guess King's Tomb is also on that list, not being explicitly Hammerlocked, or implicitly by that metric either.
All right, take 2 over here.
Getting a bit more use out of that fire rod to blast the cotton candy puffs into oblivion. And now, Espeon has his 7th crystal. The Ganon hole is already open. Now he just has to make his way there.
Oh, there's the book for baliame.
Yet another red herring. Espeon got a couple of lucky double heals off the hearts in the house there. Pretty nice. So baliame is still on the search for the flippers. We know that they're in the Bat Cave. He's got to head there as soon as he can. He had the powder fairly early on. Where was the powder? I want to say it was in Thieves Town, in the front bit that they checked.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So Espeon deciding to go and do the Bat Cave after finding that was really the main difference in this race. Or at least the main difference that mattered.
Let's see if Espeon gets the one cycle here. Should be.
Just 6 slashes for these first couple of phases. Using the hook shot to dodge the fire bats a bit. Now 4 more for phase 3. And now Espeon has to do 12 spins to Ganon here, using what we call Torch Glitch. Well, Torch Glitch isn't necessarily required, but sure as hell makes it easier. And here we see baliame in Village of Outcasts. Looks like he's heading for the Sick Kid first. Hopefully while he's in the Light World, he goes and checks the Bat Cave. And is instead going to go pick up the Smith, the Froggy Smith. My favorite way of getting the frog is when he's a shirt.
And the pig is down on Espeon's side.
So finishing this run in just under 100 minutes. Well, that did indeed just happen. So now we see the purple chest on an adventure, and we do see a dip into the Bat Cave. Here we go. Here come the flippers.
So at 1 hour and 40 minutes in, baliame is at go mode. So what he's got to do is just go through Swamp Palace really quickly. Drop off that purple chest. And then just go beat Ganon.
Welcome, Espeon. Good game.
Hi, thanks.
So surprisingly for a lot of this, the two of you just wound up chasing each other for quite a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know when exactly you guys started doing it, but I think it was a No, it was before Turtle Rock when you started chasing each other, and it lasted all the way through Misery Mire.
Wait, really? Through Misery Mire?
Yeah, it lasted that long.
Huh. So yeah, I picked up from the stream that the main difference is that I got flippers and baliame didn't.
Right, that was the main thing. And we were actually saying, I think in GT, that since you guys are following each other so much, we need to see something different out of baliame. Otherwise, you're going to wind up winning since you were just a little bit ahead of him.
And then I died to Cold Stare.
Yeah.
That was really embarrassing.
It happens.
I have Fire Rod, I have Gold Sword, I have Blue Mail, and I died to Cold Stare anyway.
Well, baliame actually wound up dying on the Skullwoods Overworld and abandoned that area until just after clearing out Helmasaur King.
Oh. I saw him going to Skullwoods later, and I thought, like, maybe he missed Fire Rod or something. Maybe he went to Desert late.
No, the two of you went into the desert pretty early, and that was another point where you're kind of following each other. Just kind of split up right when you guys got into the Dark World and then met back up, apparently in Palace of Darkness.
I guess that means I should... Well, I don't know. It just means our routing is similar. That isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's not, and you were able to hold a lead for a fair amount of time. The only reason that baliame was able to get ahead of you for a little bit was because he skipped the Ice Armos and Big Chest in Ganon's Tower. So the two of you were able to keep pace with each other pretty well.
Yeah, actually, that was something really important that I was doing, because I wanted to make sure that Ganon's Tower, that Aghanim 2, was not hammerlocked.
And what were you using to determine that, if I might ask?
Going to the top of Ganon's Tower requires you to get 4 small keys in the chests. So I wanted to check every available chest in Ganon's Tower to ensure that I could actually go up there. And because I managed to get 4 small keys, I concluded, okay, I can get up to the top of Ganon's Tower, so I think that something at the top of Ganon's Tower leads to the hammer. And that was not correct, but it still... It was still like a nice safety thing anyway, because at that point, I was just looking for the hammer, and so I wanted to rule out as many locations as I could.
Okay, but you were still going to clear the upstairs anyway, and the downstairs as it was, because both locations could have had the hammer regardless.
Exactly. So, but I actually got Shovel in the upstairs, and I thought, okay, I was absolutely convinced that the dig spot had hammer, and I was really disappointed when it didn't.
Yeah, getting that really late flute that we didn't see out of baliame. He didn't check the shovel spot, and you never activated the flute, so we didn't get to see the bird this time around. I mean, I guess we did. We got to see him fly away after a couple of fake flutes.
Yeah, actually, I kind of thought about it in a sort of logic analysis way, where you have the flute available to you, and one of the requirements, theoretically, to get into Misery Mire is the flute. And because of the way the logic fills in, where it checks backwards for things, I guessed, okay, maybe the hammer is in Misery Mire. So I went there and got it.
Well, it was the main dungeon that you could actually complete without the hammer that was left. I mean, all you had left was Swamp Palace, Ice Palace, and Helmasaur. All of those require the hammer to fully complete, so Misery Mire seemed like a logical choice on that basis alone. One thing I was a little surprised with was when you fake fluted to outside of Pod and decided to walk all the way over to Pyramid.
Oh, yeah, that was because I got the Master Sword and the lamp. And so I thought, okay, maybe Pearl was on Pyramid.
Okay.
I checked Lumberjack and it didn't have anything, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go to Pyramid, kind of make a gamble on that, and it unfortunately did not pay off. But I guess it didn't matter too much.
Well, if you wanted to check the pyramid, you could have gone for the Pyramid Ferry, which happened to be where the silvers were located.
Ooh. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Did I have Mirror at that time? I don't remember.
Pretty sure you did. Where was Mirror? I forget where Mirror was.
I feel like I didn't, otherwise I would have definitely done that.
Was Mirror on East? Oh, it was in Hype Cave. Okay, yeah. Mirror was in Hype Cave, which means, yeah, you wouldn't have had it quite yet, because that was your first foray into the Dark World, was that fake flute to the pyramid.
Right. And then I didn't remember which statue was the right one to pull, so I just pulled all of them.
By the way, you should never dash in the grass when you're a Super Bunny.
Oh, really? Why?
Because sometimes you get those rocks that come alive when you touch them.
Oh.
They can appear in the grass, and you bonk immediately.
Yeah, that would be bad. Alright, thanks for that. I didn't realize that would be a thing that could happen.
Well, anyway, baliame has finished off Ganon here, and is finishing just about 8 minutes after you. So, how are you feeling for the next game in the series here?
I feel like I won this one because, just because I checked Flippers early. Honestly, I feel like that was it. And I don't think I would be able to beat him if he managed to get that at the same time. I don't think it would have gone as well as it did.
Well, we are now joined by baliame, so congrats, GG.
Hi, thank you. Yes, you want to ask me why I skipped the back of Ganon's Tower when I could have completed it on my first dip?
Well, the Ice Armor section specifically.
Yes, I have no idea. It's
okay.
late. I literally, every time in the seed that I had to go to the bright side, I've already done everything else, because Kane usually pops up a bit later than Hammer. I don't know why. So, yeah. That just happened, and I realized it about halfway through the tower. Hey, wait, I'm marking off chests, but I haven't checked those.
I just chalked it up to you not being as confident in doing the section up to Ice Armors, because you don't see it that particularly often.
I had Cape and Burner, so I would have been fine. To be honest,
my execution in that section was actually terrible, and I was cringing while I was doing it. Like, oh my god, this is awful.
Don't worry, I think my first 4 cycles in Agatu were zeros.
I think that was the same for the both of you. Those were some pretty awful patterns.
I think I got like 2, 1, 0, 0, 2 or something. Or something like that. It was pretty bad.
After the first 3 cycles missing or something like that. It was a bunch of awful patterns.
Alright, so I wasn't the only one that felt that way about it. Otherwise, it was kind of a friendly seed, to be honest. Yeah, of course, Flipper's out of the way. I don't know when you got around to checking it. For me, it was very late.
I believe that Espeon checked it right after finding them in Thieves Town there.
Right, because my route through the Dark World was to make the super jump down to Swamp Palace, and then to route Hype Cave, Maya, Thieves Town into Skullwoods.
I think I knew it when your dot done cropped up, and then just as I was lifting my flippers, I was like, yeah, you had mirror at the time.
Oh, that's right. You might not have had mirror then, because you went into Skullwoods and the Village of Outcasts areas first before hitting Hype Cave. So that would explain why you didn't check that immediately.
Yeah, generally I would like to delay Hype Cave, because Hype Cave just stands alone down there, and then there's like nothing interesting, and then you have to do some awkward clip to get back to Kakariko, and meh.
I was actually...
I know, like...
I was actually about to check Hype Cave after going to the pyramid, but then I screwed up the clip somehow. I don't know. I've done that 100 times and never messed it up.
Well, luckily that pushed you into escape where you found your moon pearl.
And I also had to repeat.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking about the wrong section. I'm thinking about the wrong section.
That was the right section.
Oh, it was?
It was a process of elimination. That was the only place left it could be.
Okay. Yeah, like you were saying, Baliame, that nasty death that you had on the Overworld in Skull Woods cost you a fair bit there.
I just wanted a hard drop from either of those because I was like, on 7 hearts, green mail master sword going into my filler. This doesn't look good, right? And the funny thing is, if I just decide to ignore them and dash through them, I don't take a death there. Instead, I took 6 damage right on the spot.
Now, after that happened, did you feel behind for the rest of the seed?
Sort of. When it really struck me was in Ganon's Tower because I felt like some parts of my execution were just so exhausted, so tired, so not up to par. I wouldn't have necessarily counted Skullwood as something that put me behind unless the item in the back was important, which it turned out not to be. So I did breathe a sigh of relief when I found like nothing back there, nothing in the back of GT, and I'm like, I still probably have a chance if I wasn't too sloppy.
Well, you guys have your next race scheduled for tomorrow at about the same time. So here's good luck to the two of you for that.
Yeah.
I have to sleep later.
Hopefully, I actually get ready on time so that it won't be too late for baliame.
I mean, I should have taken that coffee 2 hours later. That's basically what it came down to.
I mean, for the most part, the two of you were pretty much neck and neck. As we were telling Espeon earlier, you were chasing each other for a majority of the seed, all the way starting from, I believe, Palace of Darkness through Turtle Rock, all the way up to Mire. You were just doing the same things as each other.
So I take it you decided to do Palace of Darkness first as well. It was a funny double dip mechanic because you had to double dip one of them.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. But yeah, we both did Palace of Darkness dip early. It's kind of the logical thing to do. You have bow, it's 4 or 5 items you can get, so it's nice to go there.
For one, yes. The other thing I could see is when you're coming down from Village of Outcasts and you see that Myra's Quake, and you can potentially clear the front of it, only have to return for the back. I was actually thinking of dipping it when I saw the medallion, but I opted against only because of my heart situation.
I think if you had made that dip, you might have wound up a bit further behind because of how many locations that the hammer opens up relative to the cane and how far apart the locations are opened up when you get the hammer.
I would have gone to Palace of Darkness after. If I get the hammer, that's a no-brainer. That's exactly where I go. So, in essence, I probably would have had to like return to the Mire area once more, which is maybe a bit more painful than returning to the pod area. I don't think it would have impacted that much because, well, what else is there? I could have wrapped into ice, I suppose.
Yeah, you could have wrapped into ice, but it also would have opened up locations like the hammer pegs, which you wound up checking rather late, Spike Cave, Mimic Cave. All of these little things wind up adding to the different places that you are checking that once you find that hammer a bit earlier.
If I did I do Pyramid Ferry before or after Hype Cave? I think I did it after Hype Cave.
You had to have done it after Hype Cave because you did the mirror portal way into there.
So in one way that would have actually helped me, because if I decide to I would have gone to Hammer Pegs through Pyramid Ferry and then do the moat,
Well,
do hammer pegs, and at that point I would have mirrored and picked up my flippers. And that
that assumes that you would have gone into Mire and done that dip. And okay, so but you didn't have the mirror when you were going through the Village of Outcasts section, right? Because otherwise you would have checked the Bat Cave, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that was the same trip that you went to go check Mire, so I don't think you would have been able to have the hammer with you in order to chain the Pyramid Fairy over to hammer pegs at that juncture.
No, but I would have finished after. Like, I go Maya, I Death Warp out, and then finish with Hype Cave. That was always the plan. If I go into Maya, I still would have finished my Southern Dark World checks. But yeah, it's different now thinking about it than on the spot, obviously. So it's like,
yeah,
I could have gone many ways after that.
Well, I think I've said it in other commentaries that when you look back at how you could have gone through the seed, considering how many different avenues you have, usually your answer is, yeah, that could have gone better.
Definitely could have. But I'm satisfied that we only had a 10 minutes difference, despite that not particularly straightforward flippers for me.
Well, nonetheless, you do have at least one more match to pull another win in and hopefully tie this thing up. So we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, good games, you guys.
Yep, GG.
Good game.
Up next, it seems that we have the Celeste Any Percent tournament. That'll be coming up right at 11 Eastern. For the meantime, this match of the Overworld Glitches tournament is over. So, one more time, good game to baliame and Espeon. Thank you to Hollowbro for tracking for us, and who's restreamed for us? I saw his name earlier.